If not, I'd like to ask Mr. David Lubofsky, if he wishes to testify, please present your testimony. By the way, so for the public, all of the testimony that was submitted to me prior to the hearing is available on a drive that has a link has been sent to all the senators and actually all the members present here in this hearing today. So everybody's able to see that digest of testimony. All right, so Mr. Lubofsky.
Hi, my name is David Lubofsky. Thank you, senators, for allowing me to present and submit testimony for Bill 4336. In my opinion, this bill is long overdue and I support it. I'm a consumer and have direct experience with the license boards and how 4336 can improve things. I have to say at the same time, many issues of the boards should not need 4336. They are board-based issues, but 4336 aims to fix those issues, which is a good thing. My experience with the Allied and Guam board experience highlights some of the problems beyond the technical issues. But about 15 months ago, we had a meeting, if you might remember, speaker, with Dr. Yasuhiro. He was at the information malpractice. And he said several things that still to this day ring in my mind. He was the former head of the dental board. He said 15 months ago that that we need a strong regulatory body, which we do not have now. He said the health professional licensing office has not been an important priority. The hearing, the investigative process is broken and needs to be fixed, he continued. We have to have a way to get a resolution to medical tragedies. That was 15 months ago. And I think you may remember that speaker that you thought it was a breath of fresh air, as you stated. And I can never forget that. Up to now, things have not changed. But in part, Bill 43 aims to change things to make it a fairer, more impartial process for complaints against licensed medical professionals. As a consumer, I want to share my experiences with the license boards briefly and how they do things from my experience. So we're juggling two things. We're talking about the importance of 4336, and we're talking about also experiences of the license board and the documented experiences. This is what an average person has to deal with when they seek help from either the Allied Board or the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. The Allied Board has many members on it for 20 years, sitting there for 20 years, maybe 5 members, seemingly in violation to public law as far as I know. In the last 20 years, I researched all their documents. I don't see any changes in their general policies as compared to nursing board, as an example, including not enacting ethical standards of care policies until 2019, possibly the last board in the country to do this. I do not expect impartiality with board members who were told by their attorney that they do not have term limits, meaning they have no fear of public or legislative scrutiny through the reappointment process. And that's a big concern of mine because maybe Bill 43 is also relevant for that. When Asher passed away, my son Asher, for those of you who don't know, there were no standards of any kind in place to protect him or for our complaint to be fairly processed. So the Allied Board used a physician assistant on Guam to investigate another physician assistant on Guam and the death of my son when I filed a complaint, assistant on the island. Do you think at all that they can fairly or impartially decide on my son's case or anyone else's case? As an example, they all know each other and must interact with each other. The investigation was botched for many reasons, in my opinion. But the Allied Board did not seek an impartial investigator. They seemed to be satisfied with what they had, nor did they seem to care. It took them 10 months to even do the investigation. Just to be clear, and this goes back to Bill 43, how can a Guam physician assistant be counted on fairly and impartially to investigate and rule on a colleague, and at the same time not show prejudice or anger against me, the father of Asher, who is and was advocating to take protections away from him that he enjoys under the Mandatory Arbitration Act. That was always a concern of mine. We are not allowed to complain, as the board attorney is quick to point out to us. If we have a complaint, the AG attorney says we have no rights. We have no rights of appeal. It's a done deal. So whatever the board comes up with, whether it's biased, impartial, as the appearance of being biased, we as the consumers have no rights of appeal. Nothing doesn't exist, according to Attorney Weinberg. Then moving along, we have the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. I don't want to insult anybody. I have to personally have to say, this board, in my opinion, holds the award for lack of public confidence in Guam and has extreme conflicts of interest. They also investigated Ash's death through a complaint made with them against the SDA clinic. As I tell you my experiences, please don't think about me. Don't think about Asha. Think about your own children and your grandchildren and your nephews and nieces and how you would feel going through the process of this board who says they have no conflict of interest. First, they refused to meet with me during their investigation. Refused. Even though I asked for it, and it was definitely needed. Imagine that. I am the father who watched his son dying at SDA, arguing with the SDA doctor, but not part of the investigation. How can it be? It's impossible. And I just want to remind you, just as a reminder, as you may recall, Speaker Terlaje, Dr. Berg said they involve all parties in their investigations during the board's oversight hearing that you held, and also said they recused themselves of a conflict of interest. This is very untrue based on my experience. Okay, Dr. Berg and members of the board instead called or wrote to the clinic, asked them if they did all they could have done for Asha, and looked at the SDA records and decided without speaking to me on Asha's case. Does this appear impartial or without conflict of interest, especially since they did not even respond to all the points in the complaint form? There was no victim involvement. There was no impartiality. There was no process that was fair to the victim, my son. And let's keep this in mind. Dr. Berg has a major conflict of interest and makes big bucks, we all know, of SDA and other clinics. He should have found, without us even saying it, an impartial investigator, and for sure recused himself, as he told the speaker he does. To make matters worse, they refused to release the results of the investigation to us. They held on to the investigation. We're the parents, we're the family of Asha, but they wouldn't tell us the results of the investigation. Think about this when you're thinking about your own family. They released the results of Asha's investigation to the Pacific Daily News, not to us. We had to read it in the newspaper. Coincidentally, the same day our legal case was announced. If that doesn't appear as a conflict of interest or just a lack of ethics, I don't know what does. Think about this as a parent of a dead child. The board refused to inform us, and we had to read it in the paper. Would you be upset? Would you be mad? Would you be fighting mad? Would you be here now with me? It doesn't matter if you're mad or if you're upset. As the lawyer told us quickly, Attorney Weinberg, we have no rights. Therefore, we need 4336 to stop this craziness, or better yet, fix these boards. The Guam Board of Medical Examiners has never decided a complaint against a doctor under Berg's leadership for our patients. This is statistically impossible with near 30 cases that they have dealt with. The board is steep in conflict of interest, and for sure, appearance of conflict of interest, as 4336 discusses. How can board members, the Guam Board of Medical Examiner doctors, fight vigorously to protect themselves and make sure they are not accountable for medical negligent death using the Medical Malpractice Arbitration Act on the one hand, then be expected to be impartial in deciding against doctors and their medical board investigative responsibility. It doesn't make rational sense. Again, 4336 throws a little bit in there to make it more impartial. How can people that own clinics, doctors that own clinics that depend on referrals from other doctors, investigate those referral doctors impartially when their very lifeblood income is based on those doctors making referrals to them? It seems the Office of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners is being used as another layer of protection of doctors versus consumers. And again, when I saw 4336, it seems like it's a way to help them mitigate that. They want to protect.
If you could wrap it up, please. Yes.
Okay. Anyways, they want to protect themselves at every level. Bill 4336 will help alleviate that by making impartial investigations and removing any possible corruption or conflicts of interest. 4336 is a good start in that direction. And I think, and I appreciate you allowing me to make testimony. I just want to add one thing. I have found the HLPO office to be one of the most professionally run offices I've had to deal with in the whole nightmare since losing Asher. Thank you for letting me to give testimony.
Mr. Lubofsky, did you just say the most professionally run office?
Yes, clearly. The HLPO office has been extremely professional, non-biased, friendly, outgoing, and anything else I can think of without being on a video. They have been great, and I thank them very much. They have been the force to help to neutralize some of the anger that some people feel. Thank you, Zinnia Pacina.
Thank you, Zinnia. All right, thank you, Mr. Lubofsky. And so I think I've caught everyone who signed up to testify. Mr. Byrne, if you're still there, did you want to add anything before I start asking for questions from the panel?
I'm still here, Speaker. No, I've been very interested listening to this.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
Thank you. So Senator Flores, you're recognized.